Hi guys, welcome to the latest podcast of YarninBlak. Today I've got a great mate on, Matt. I'll introduce you to Matt in a minute, but first I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land that I'm calling in from. I'm here on the land of the Wurundjeri people in Balwyn Q, and I'd like to pay respect to their elders past, present, and the future generation that are coming through that are going to be our warriors for the future, and any other Aboriginal people that are joining us today. So I've got my guest on, Matthew. Matt, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you, AJ.
Good, glad you can make it on. But I know who you are, but let everyone else know who you are. Who are you? Where you're from?
Yeah, great. My name's Matthew Thomlinson. I was born and raised here on the Wurundjeri country, and I'm a proud Yuin man.
Yep. So for people that don't know where Ewan Country is, where is it?
Yeah, so Yuin country starts at the border of Victoria, the northeastern border. It's a beautiful country down there on the southeast coast of New South Wales. Some beautiful beaches. Travels up from about just north of Mallacoota all the way up past Ulladulla up near Wollongong, and it goes in west to the Dividing Range as well. So, very beautiful country, and very proud to be from there.
Cool. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Metro Melbourne,
Yep.
in and around the city. Yeah.
Yep. So I'll ask you a question. At school, how much Aboriginal issues did you study at school?
Um, Not a lot. Look, I think at times I was lucky. I feel like in discussions I got a lot more in hindsight than other people, but it always boiled down to the same topics of land rights, and you end up watching the Marbo movie or the Rabbit Proof Fence movie, or Brand New Day, which was an interesting one, but
Yeah.
it boiled down to, I think sometimes teachers wouldn't know how to teach the topics. So the movies were for them the most comfortable way of teaching. And you missed out on those discussions that you get when the teachers understand the topics and they're really into it and can foster those discussions that are needed.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
Brand New Day is an interesting one though, isn't it? Because I get it. It's quite funny watching it as from an Aboriginal person watching it, but I don't know how accurate it would be, all the conversations that would have to be in the classroom around cultural appropriation or cultural, I don't know. I don't know if that's a really good one to be playing in the classroom.
Maybe not. And I think it came more from a media perspective, and
Ah,
English perspective than from a history perspective.
effective.
So
Yeah.
I think that was nice in the way that, we're going to see First Nations films um, in that sort of setting. So
Yeah.
from an English perspective, definitely it was a great film to watch. But yeah, from that cultural appropriation setting, those conversations were a bit tougher to have.
Yeah. And so after you finished school, did you get to year 12?
I did, yeah. I finished year 12 and then moved on to uni afterwards.
Yep. So what did you study at uni?
I started with a Bachelor of Arts down there at the University of Melbourne.
Yep. What did you major in?
History and politics,
Oh, awesome.
which was a lot of fun, yeah.
Yeah. So what then moved you from history and politics into working with community?
Well, I was always really interested in working in community. It was always my eventual goal, whether that was community work, which is what I'm in now, or through education. So I wanted to further my knowledge in that Bachelor of Arts degree, learn about different histories. I've tried to focus a lot on Indigenous histories. There's some fantastic teachers there, with Marcia Langton, Barry Judd. Got to do classes with them, which it was so interesting to hear lived experience and all the knowledge that they hold. But also in politics, you get to see a completely different side of what goes on behind the scenes. And that pushed me, like gaining all that knowledge and then wanting to be able to share that in community has been a really fun experience as well.
Question about politics. Do you think politics should be a subject that's mandatory in high school?
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. And that's personal bias. I'm completing a teaching degree as well as with my major still in history and politics. And so I'm always a little bit biased because as a humanities teacher, you want to see the humanities taught more. But politics is so important. I think you go on social media these days, especially in the wake of the most recent election, and you see a lot of people talking about our voting system and the preferences. And it boils down to, you see in high school, they weren't taught about these things. They don't understand how important it is to have your preferences in that order, in the order that you want. And it's not just filling in 1 to 9. And what you get to learn in politics and that civic duty, I don't think many people say voting is a right, but it's really a responsibility of the people more than anything. It's a responsibility to understand what's going on and the responsibility to make sure your voice is heard.
I
So
like how you said that a right. Some people think it's a right, but it is a responsibility. I've never heard that said that way, but you actually are really correct.
yeah, it's just when it comes down to you, you have a right, but you have to exercise those rights. So it becomes a responsibility of everyone to have their voices heard. And when you hear people say, this isn't what I voted for, especially you see when it's not a responsibility, we have that civic responsibility because we're mandatory. But you look at countries across the globe who don't have mandatory voting, and you hear people say, this isn't what I voted for. And you go, you didn't vote. Therein lies your voice was not heard. Your and what you want is not counted because you didn't exercise that responsibility that you have. So I'm really glad that in Australia you have that responsibility to turn up, and you
Yeah,
then have the right to get a sausage afterwards.
yeah, yeah. Um, so how far into your teaching degree are you now?
I'm a few years in.
Yep,
Got 2 more left.
yep,
So currently completing that, going back to that in February, I think, or March. I think we get a little bit of an extended break.
yep.
So that's nice. So going back to that in March, and going back into studying some secondary teaching.
Oh, awesome, awesome. What, how in the subjects that you're going to teach, or when you get into a school, how are you going to try to make sure that Indigenous perspectives are in every subject?
I think that comes from a pedagogical base, how we teach. I think in a lot of it, the content you teach is important, but the way in which you teach it is even more important. And there's some fantastic resources out there on Indigenous pedagogy. I know we have the 8 Ways pedagogy, which has been really, really transformational when you look into how to teach and looking at how, when before colonization, what teaching actually was for Indigenous people. It was lived experience, it's learning through hands-on. And I think that plays into it a lot. And I think it also goes into being able to, as a teacher, have open and honest conversations with people. Because if you keep shutting down conversations as a teacher because you're scared of what's being said, or there'll always be a kid who might say something that you think is wrong and you want to just shut that down. It's about opening it up and having that conversation, understanding where they're coming from, and then being able to dissect where they get their knowledge from and teach them, show them a different point of view and a different perspective. I think that's really important. And it's something that severely lacks these days, is being able to have those open discussions with people and not just want to shut down a point of view without understanding it first.
Yeah.
Um,
Question, when you're at school growing up, what did you want to be? Did you want to be a teacher? Or did you want to, did
I
you have a
did.
different aspiration?
As funny as it sounds, I did want to be a teacher. Spending my whole life in the school, that hit me a little bit later,
Oh, yeah.
realizing I was going to spend my whole life in the classroom. But I love teaching. It's been something that has been so fundamentally important to my family history, education. So it's something I always wanted to give back to the education system as well and improve it for Indigenous people in particular.
Yep. Favorite subject at school, what was it?
History.
History.
That always history.
Yeah. Australian history or history in general?
I love Australian history, um, but it's a bit short.
Yeah.
At least the way it's taught in schools, unfortunately. I think it goes back so far, but when it's taught in school, it was not taught back far enough. But when you think, I loved Roman history. I
Yeah.
loved Rome. It's such a fun subject. The
Yeah.
backstabbings and it's so dramatized in history, Rome. So it's always a bit of fun. Oh, you never lose entertainment from Roman history.
No, they seem to get rid of people very quickly over there. It was like a major soap opera.
It really was the world's first soap opera, Rome. Um, some great things you learn in Roman history.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've been working in community for a while now. What do you like about working in community?
I love being able to sit down with people and connect with people from different walks of life. I think one thing that I struggled with growing up was connecting to culture. Um, I think I would have found out that I was Aboriginal when I was 8 or 9, and it's becoming when your family doesn't know services, when you don't know services, it can be very hard to connect, and you can feel very isolated. And I love being able to help people find those opportunities to connect to culture and just to help open doors for community as well. I think that's a really important part of what we do.
Yeah. Because to be honest, community don't know what community don't know, do they? So,
Yeah, I think in the words of I don't want to as a history teacher, it'll be honestly horrible if I get this wrong, but there was one of the US presidents who goes into known unknowns and unknown unknowns as
yeah.
a speech on that. I want to say Reagan, but it might be one of the Bushes as well.
Yeah. Well, it definitely wasn't Trump.
No.
Uh,
Um,
I don't normally become too political, but in 20 years' time or 30 years' time, when people are teaching history about Trump, how do you think he will be perceived?
it really is a tough one how Trump will be perceived, but history is often written by the victors. So we'll sort of have to wait and see what goes on over there. If they fall deeper down the rabbit hole that they seem to be going into, moving slower, well, not that slow anymore. It's been rapidly falling towards autocracy over there. And I think world history will have a very, very bleak view on it at the very least in 30 years' time.
Yeah.
And I think that will fall not just on Trump, but um, also on education there in America and the social disadvantage. I think there's a lot of inequity at the moment, and that's really what's led that division and social inequity has led to the power of someone who can exploit that. So I think
Mm,
it'll be interesting, and it's something that all countries should be reflecting on
yeah.
if um, the growing social inequity will lead them down the same path as America.
Yeah. Yeah. But jumping back to Australian politics at the moment, because where do you think we are in terms of reconciliation in this country?
We're getting there. I think I've been so proud to watch Victoria in the treaty process
Yeah.
and to for the government to actually stick by it in some really fierce negativity towards it, both after while it was happening, during the voice, and then even when it was signed. I think for again, I do tend to look to social media to the reactions of a lot of
Yeah.
people, and so many people didn't know what was going on with the treaty, and when it got signed, it sort of there was a fierce backlash, and it always goes back to that misconception that giving Aboriginal people that land rights is we're going to go and knock on their door and say, "This is my house now." And it's that fear that people get of not fully wanting to understand what's going on. And so I'm glad that we're getting there, but we're still a very long way off. I think we're still so far from actually being ready to accept the truth of Australian history and what happened during colonization. I think I can't remember his name. His last name's Wolf, but he has this fantastic saying that invasion doesn't happen in a day.
Yeah.
It's a process. And I think in Australia, we still teach colonization as we landed, we teach it as individual days.
Yeah.
And we don't connect those days to the system of stripping Aboriginal people of rights of the land and everything that was happening at the time. We don't connect those systems together, and we're not ready when people do start connecting those systems together to actually hear that truth, that this was systemic. This wasn't individual unfortunate circumstances. It really was not a series of unfortunate events. It
Yeah.
was systemic, and that's where we need to get to. We need to get to that understanding that there was systemic injustice in the past, and we need, once you can address that, once we can understand that as Australians, we can move forward together, I think.
Yeah. And I think you've raised a really good point there about it being taught as a date. Like I remember in history having to learn this occurred on this date, and we become so fixated on, that colonization happened 200 and something. What do they say when you read the social media? 250 years ago.
Yeah, we're going up to that now, aren't we?
Yeah. Why haven't you people moved on yet? Like it's been 250 years without actually going, well, how has that impacted on the generations, and how did that impact on your grandparents and then your parents and then you?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely true. It's they go, oh, haven't you got over that yet? Some a date that's 200 years ago. And we talk about things like the stolen generation. I mean, that report came out 30 years ago,
Yeah.
I think, in 1993, the
Yeah.
Bring Them Home
1993.
report.
Yeah.
Um, that's 30 years ago. That's barely one generation
Yeah.
ago that those impacts were still happening. So we talk about colonization as a date that was 200 years ago, but some of the most serious impacts of colonization were only being investigated 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think, and that's why I think the study of politics and history together, you start to build that understanding of throughout, you get that understanding of systems throughout time, and you get to put those 2 points together, the systemic history of the world.
Yeah. And I
You know,
think I like what you're doing is with the humanities and politics, because I'm just thinking just off the top of my head for a second that, when people say to you, oh, we need a referendum on this, we need a referendum on this, do people really know what a referendum is? It's like a big investigation that comes up with some sort of, these are the recommendations, but it's up to the government whether they want to take those recommendations or not. Then it's not an investigation that's going to lead to anything possibly.
oh,
Is it
absolutely. The royal commissions are
a royal
it's
commission? Sorry.
yeah. I imagine that when we talk about investigations, but even
Yeah.
referendums, I don't think people truly understand the importance behind referendums either, or royal commissions.
Yeah. I meant
Royal
royal
commissions
commission.
are fantastic for rooting out those sorts of injustices that happen within our systems. You had Robodebt most recently, was one of them, and Scott Morrison's secret ministries.
Yeah.
But they're the two most recent ones. But you can go back to, for Indigenous people, we had deaths in
Custody.
custody. We had the Bringing Them Home report, and to this day, those recommendations haven't been fully implemented. It's a very much pick and choose your poison for the government. It's fantastic for them to say, we investigated something. It's like, great. What are you going to do next? And it's something that royal commissions at times can be fantastic for the government to just say, to be able to hold up a piece of paper and say, we've done something, let's move on. And then have everyone just, it will slowly die out, the outrage and things. And then they won't have to fully do what those reports say because people move on to the next
Yeah.
issue.
Working community health, the concept of cultural safety gets thrown around a lot. How do you define cultural safety, and what makes you as an Aboriginal man feel culturally safe when you go to services?
I think it's being understanding first and foremost. I think in life in general, being understanding of people and their background and their beliefs is the most important thing to making someone feel safe. Whether that's being Indigenous, whether that's being Australian, or whether that's being any religion out there, you want to feel safe for what you believe and for what you who you are. So being understanding of a person's beliefs is the most important part to cultural safety for me.
Yeah. And
And
so when you go to a service, what makes you feel culturally safe when you walk in?
I think one of the hardest things for me has always been when I do identify myself as an Aboriginal man. You just get that look of shock from people. It is. I'm closer to looking albino than I am to looking Aboriginal at a certain point, and people always go, "It's the red hair. I'm whiter than Casper the Ghost." And what makes me feel safe is when someone just doesn't even question the fact that I've identified as Aboriginal, and they just understand the fact that it does not matter how much milk is in the coffee, it's still coffee in the end. And I think that's for me, that understanding that Aboriginal people are not a monolith of people. We're not one group of people. We are 250 plus nations. I think we're up to millions of people in Australia now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do 4% of the population in my head.
I think it's about 4%. They're talking about somewhere between 900,000 by the census data, and then something like 200,000 or 300,000 more that haven't identified. So it's about 1.3, 1.4.
Yeah, and I think when I was reading, it's finally reaching back to what was pre-colonization numbers, and it's amazing. It's taken 250 years to reach that, but
Since that colonization date.
Yes, one date, and then we dropped off by 50%. We don't know how. It was one day, and then we'll skip over about 100 years there between 1788 and 1901.
Yeah,
not much happened.
Yeah,
according to the history books, but but that's what makes me feel culturally safe. Is just feeling like I belong somewhere and feeling like people accept me. And that comes from just them understanding that I can be white, I can have red hair, and I'm still an Indigenous person.
Yeah. I still don't, I was just going to say this in a way that for our listeners to understand as well, that being light skinned, we still do hear those comments that people don't believe you. Like, what percentage are you?
Yeah.
How far back does it go?
I'll say when I was probably in year 7, we did a camp up in Myrtlesford, right up there at the base of Mount Hotham. And we had an Indigenous person come and talk to us. And I was very, very new to sort of understanding what it meant to be Aboriginal. And he said, "Oh, is anyone here Aboriginal?" And I wasn't very confident back then. No one, I was very rarely accepted by people for being Aboriginal because of the way I look. So I put my hand up and I said, "I'm part Aboriginal." And he goes, "There is no part. You either are or you aren't. You got to pick." It's not that you got to pick, but you got to accept that you are. It's not, you don't get to be part. You don't get to be a percentage Aboriginal. And I think that was both, a little bit embarrassing for me at the time.
Yeah.
Also helped build that strength of being, it's not a part, it's not a percentage of who I am. It is who I am.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah, it definitely, you get those comments all the time. I'll tell someone, it's like, oh, what, 164th? And it's always very shocking when it happens. I go,
And
oh,
honestly, what the hell is a 164th really?
hasn't been defined yet, but and it doesn't need to. All that needs to be defined is that, and it's why I love that 3-step process that we have with, and you still hear people today calling for blood quotas, and they go, oh, the mum has to be at least 50%, and I just think to myself, it's like, there's like no one left who is 50%. You would completely wipe out Aboriginal people if you were to put in a blood quota. It is it's being of Indigenous heritage, and I love that.
Yeah.
And being accepted by a community as well. I find that to be such an important part, and that has been such a amazing journey, both personally and professionally. Being able to feel more connected with community.
Yeah, I always joke a little bit, but I say to people, like if they did implement that percentage quota, just think of all the boards that are out there with Aboriginal people on them. You'll be having people go, well, sorry, Matt, you're only 2%. You can't, I'm 39%. I'm more Aboriginal than you, and my vote is higher than yours. Because that's what it will turn out to be if we go back to the percentages.
Yeah, it was a shocking system to start with. It was a system that was made to ensure that Aboriginal people would be extinct.
Yeah.
It wasn't there to ensure that people were real Aboriginals. It was there to make sure that people weren't Aboriginal in the end.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your plans for the next 5 years or so after you finish your degree? What I know you want to teach. Any idea where you're going to teach? Private school, public school?
I grew up doing private school, and in the sense of I love the fact that I went to Kerry Baptist down there in Kew.
My daughter went there too.
Yeah, it's a fantastic school, but the students have the fear of God put in them. It's so much fun as a teacher to you give them a look and they stop and they go, oh, they don't want to upset the teacher. But I've loved doing placements at public schools. I really enjoy that, and I think the kids are a bit more open, and the kids, you get to have a lot of fun discussions with them. But I'm not sure. I love teaching, and I've also loved my time in community. So the next 5 years, I would love to find a way to blend the two. We have some fantastic programs at VACA, like our Strong and Deadly Bures program and our Koori Kids Stay at School program, where we get to help Indigenous kids in the education system and provide them with tutoring, cultural supports, connection to community. And I think programs like that are so undervalued and so necessary for community. And that's sort of where I see myself moving into in the future.
Yeah. I've got a question. If a young person came to you and said, look, I just found out that I'm Aboriginal, I wanted to learn more, where should I start? What would you guide them to do?
I think one of my favorite things to do, and it was something that my mum did, and I'm forever grateful for my mum for what she was able to do, and that's do whatever you can to research your family. I love being able to learn more about, you get to learn so many stories, and that's such a strong basis for me, is the stories that I learned about my family, and the Indigenous side of my family, and getting to go back and getting to see that's my connection to culture there, and starting then to get involved with services. It's about, once you find out, it's about being proud. It doesn't matter when you find out in life. I think whether you find out when you're 60 or whether you find out when you're born, you know, neither thing makes you more or less Aboriginal, and it's to be proud that you are, and to reach out to services and say, you know, you've got wonderful services, the Koori Heritage Trust and Dadi Munroa and all these things where you can go yarn and you can actually talk and just say, I only just found out and I'm looking to connect. And that's what it took for me as well, being able to reach out to services as I got older, and more confident. And I think for people, being confident and making those steps to reach out to someone and just say, and being open and saying, even if you found out yesterday, no one's going to growl you out. No one's going to be, oh, no, you're not. You know, we all understand that struggle of finding out at any point in life, and we're always happy to accept people and help you find a way to connect.
Yeah, I think that's really, really a beautiful way of saying it, because people are finding out at different stages. And the only one other thing I would add to that too is be honest about when you're going to the community that you don't know much and you're wanting to learn, because you don't want to go in with the wrong perception. Where I've had people who want to know, but they've come in and said, look, I want to get my confirmation papers because I want to get my kids to go to school. And I just found out I'm Aboriginal last week. There was a difference in that kind of response because they want something out of it before they've even connected with it.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It's being open and actually connecting first.
Yeah.
And that the thing about the confirmation is it's about being part of the community and actually being connected to the community. That's one of those 3 steps. So I think it's opening yourself up to community before asking anything, you know, anything like that of community as well. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
I won't go into another American president spiel there with I started to hear that in my head.
Yeah.
Does sound like John there.
Do you get home to your country very often?
Not as often as I would like. I have a 5-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old daughter, and I've been lucky enough to take my 5-year-old daughter onto country. We did the Bingy Dreaming track up there.
Nice.
And that was at a time where I really felt like I needed to go back to country and just sit and connect. So I took my daughter and my wife with me, and it was a fantastic experience. It's healing physically and it was healing mentally, and I would love the opportunities to get back up there. I'm hoping that next year they do the I'm very new to learning the language. I think it's called the Birrigabunan. It's like a corroboree up there for the UN nations. And I'm really hoping to take my daughters to that next year. Unfortunately, we missed it this year.
Yeah. And they're quite young. That school, any of them at primary school, preschool?
Just about to go in next week. So first day of school next Thursday, and that just hit me that it was 1 week away. So now I'm frantically searching to make sure I've got everything.
Yes.
I can't believe it's only 1 week to go, but yeah. So my eldest is going to school this year, and but not the youngest yet. No.
So, are you taking the day off to take it to school?
Working from home, so I'll still I'll be there to drop her off, and I'll come pick her up at 3:15.
Yeah.
School times keep changing. It was so easy when it was 3 on the dot or 3:30. Now it's some schools finish at 3:05, 3:15. But yeah, hopefully I'm not late.
No. My only other suggestion is give yourself a half an hour after you drop her off for the tears to come, knowing that your little girl's gone to the big school.
I'm expecting it. I can get emotional sometimes, and when she finished kinder, the pride of just, and almost then knowing that she's going up to big school, that brought a tear to my eye as well. So I'm ready. I'll have tissues in my back pocket.
Yeah, I used them the day that I dropped my son off for the first time in kindergarten at there, and I went, Oh my God. And I dropped him off and I walked away and I only walked about 400 meters before I want to go back and get him. I don't want to leave him here.
It's almost harder for the parents. That
Yes.
every parent says, "Oh, I hope they'll do okay without me." It's really, we hope we'll do okay without them. That they're upset for all of 1 minute.
Yeah.
Once you're out of sight, they are
Yeah.
laughing with a new friend,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you're left there with your tissues.
I know. And you'll probably be back there before 3:15 anyway at 2:45. Just
Oh, no, and probably for parking as well. Trying to find parking in the side street is brutal at school.
yeah, I know. Is the school very far from where you live?
Oh, walking distance,
Oh,
luckily.
okay.
But
That's good.
yeah, that's a good thing. So get to take a walk into school a few times, hopefully. But
Yeah. So how are you going to ensure that your kid, that both your daughters grow up learning about culture?
it's about having discussions with them, and I think it's something I've my sister works up at ANU. I have a twin sister, and she brings down the most wonderful books for us from up there, and I get to read books both about Aboriginal culture and in my language, my mob's language,
Yeah.
and I get to learn with them, and that's been one of the most fun experiences is learning with them. And I think when it comes to keeping them connected to culture, and it's all about giving them a love of learning and bringing them in to be proud that they're Aboriginal as well. And because you don't, I found it very hard starting because you have to build up that pride and to be able to connect to culture and feel like you belong. And that sometimes can take a while. And I hope that what I'm doing is instilling that from a very young age, and um, taking them to every activity possible. They when that my youngest was two, so before my eldest, no, when my oldest was two, before my youngest was even born,
Yeah.
um, we were moving down to Thomastown from being a bit further up north, and I was looking for new playgroups, and fortunately, the VACA kids playgroup came up, and I jumped at the opportunity because it gives them a space to connect with other Indigenous kids, and it gives them that space to learn about culture. And that's where I got to start doing. Even for me, I got to start doing possum skin burning and learning how to cook with traditional ingredients. And for me and my girls, it's been such a fun time. They have the most fun there. They talk about, oh, when are we seeing Arnie live again? When are we seeing Arnie Brina? They absolutely adore it because there's that acceptance there, and it's that pride the sense of pride they get from going there is fantastic. So that's something I hope to continue, is getting them involved and having them feel proud.
Yeah. So I'm just watching the time and I know that you have to put kids to bed soon, probably. But I wanted to ask you, oh my God, I forgot what the question was. I'll let it there spit here. Um, what was my question? Okay, yeah. Five, four, three, two, one. Um, just watching the time, and I know that you have to put your kids to bed very soon, but I've got a question, and that is, if I gave you a magic wand and $1 zillion and said that you can fix something in Aboriginal affairs, where would you start?
Oh, it is. There is so much I would do, and I can't wish for more wishes.
You can wish for more wishes.
Uh, it's such a hard topic to start. Everything when you break it down, everything is so interconnected, and you start wondering. You get to a point of which area do I want to go to first? But I think it would be, and it would even be in Aboriginal affairs per se. It would be a magic wand. Oh, it would be a megaphone
Yeah,
so that everyone could just hear the truth. That is that is the most important thing, is truth telling. And that is just what I would love to do, is to have just a magic microphone that could make everyone listen to the histories and the stories that we have, and just get to understand that we're not enemies. We're not coming for anything of yours. We're not asking for anything of yours. We're just asking for the same respect that you would give everyone else in
Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
That's what I would do.
That's beautiful. Um, Final question is, what would you like people to walk away with from our yarn this evening?
I think it would be to be proud and to be open, and to always listen to each other. Listening is one of the most powerful tools that we have. More than it is speaking, you get to learn so much from listening. And it has been, over the last 12 months in particular, has been one of the most important experiences for me in community services, is listening to my clients, listening to mob at work who have so much lived experience, and just getting to learn from listening to everyone's stories. It is so special. I hope that's what people get out of this, is sit down with mob and listen.
Yeah. Hey, I want to say thank you for joining me tonight. I love the work that you do, and I can't wait for you to be a teacher. I think that's yeah, exactly where you need to be. Just the way you were able to explain things tonight, like on the video, as you're talking. As a kid, I could actually go, I wish I had a teacher that could explain things to me like the way that you explain it. So
Thank you so much.
storytelling is something that you do. So guys, I want to say thanks for Matt, and I'll see you guys at the next podcast. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.